Morning and Shavua Tov, everyone. I hope you had a great Shabbat. In today's Halacha, we're going to discuss the laws of Hatmana, which means insulating food before or during Shabbat. So we have two types of Hatmana that is discussed in the Halacha. Number one is Hatmana bedavar hamosif havar, which means that we insulate the food with something that adds heat. This type of Hatmana would be asur even before Shabbat. Hachamim say because maybe a person will insulate with coals and he will come to ignite the coals on Shabbat, and that will be an isur of mav'ir, anything that is touching fire. This type of hatmana includes sesame seeds, olive spit, sand. We also have white paint, salt also. They all add heat when the food is insulated in them, and therefore they are asur to be done before Shabbat. What about using, let's say, a cover, blanket on top of the food? So that's actually a mahloket if the food is on the fire, because even though the blanket itself does not add heat, it only preserves the heat. The fact that you have the fire underneath will make the blanket add heat to the food. So that happens to be a big mahloket, a discussion if it's mutar or asur. Chacham Ovadia Yosef seems to hold that the bottom line is that if it's a real source of fire, like you have a blech on top of the stove, then we should be mahmir. But if it's on a hot plate, on the plata, then it's okay to be mekel. It looks like the minhag is to be mekel, even though it's always better to have a board that is separating the blanket from the food itself. The second exception that we find in this situation, in the hatmana bedavar hamosif havar, when it adds heat, is if a person is insulating the food itself. Let's say that you insulate the food inside the pot. So that's not considered insulation. The insulation is only when you insulate the pot, not when you insulate the food inside the pot. And that's also mutar before Shabbat. Third exception that we find in the hatmana is if you are, for example, matmin de tzonen. What is matmin de tzonen? That you are insulating something that is cold, so you would eventually add heat to it before Shabbat, but it's not going to get hot. It's just not going to be super cold. So it's called lehafig tzinato, to basically not have the food that is too cold. That's also going to be mutar before Shabbat. So these are three exceptions. In the first category, the hatmana bedavar hamosif havar. The second category of insulation is hatmana bedavar she'en mosif havar. For example, if a person is using blanket and there is no fire, also feathers, also fruits. So all these only preserve the heat, and it's not allowed on Shabbat to do such a hatmana. However, before Shabbat, it's allowed to do it. Why can't we do it during Shabbat? Chachamim say because of shemei artiach. Maybe a person who's doing that may come eventually to also heat up the food on Shabbat itself, and we come to the isur of bishul, cooking on Shabbat. But once again, we find some exceptions in this halacha. Number one, if, for example, you have a baby bottle that you would like to insulate inside the water on Shabbat, it's not going to get super hot. It's just going to be, I would say, room temperature, or at least not too cold. That situation will also be mutar on Shabbat. Also, the crockpot situation. The crockpot situation really belongs to the first category, but we should know that Chacham Ovadia says that it's mutar on Shabbat because it's not the normal way to batmin, to do the normal insulation, and as long as you cover the knobs and make sure that you won't touch them, then it would be also mutar to use the crockpot on Shabbat, even if it's technically insulated inside its own vessel. And another category, another exception that we find in the hatmana bedavar she'eno mosif haval is a situation where someone already had the hatmana done before and is only putting it again. So let's say I did insulate before Shabbat something that was not adding heat. On Shabbat it got uncovered, or I uncovered it myself. I am allowed to cover it again on Shabbat because it's not considered matmin lechatechila to do it in the first place, but it's just a continuation of the previous hatmana. And on this, I wish you all amazing and great week.